Hello, my name's James Fleming. Currently a senior at IUP, and I'm a special education K through 12 major. I decided to go back to school late in life. I was in construction forever and a bunch of other things, but basically my body was breaking down, and it was always a passion to teach. I started into elementary education, and I got a job as a para to kind of help me through school. And I realized pretty quickly that I had more of a calling at the high school level than I did the elementary level with behavioral support. Um, I have a wife and 4 kids, so that makes this whole experience a little different for me and makes it hard to find time to do what I need to do. But so far, I've been managing and getting through. Um, But my current job, I work for a local school at fourth and fifth grade life skills room, and that's what made me choose the two disabilities that I have chosen because um, one, for the sake of this video, if I refer to he or a boy, that is a boy I work with who has been diagnosed with autism. Um, and if I refer to she or he, I work with a little girl every day that has Down syndrome, and that falls under the category of intellectual disability. Um, so I'm hoping to bring some of my real life experience and what we're reading and studying and combine those a little bit to maybe help somebody out. Um, Autism, it can be identified by different muscle movements, walking on toes. Uh, they don't really see pain the same way that an average peer does. They are kind of withdrawn in themselves, which actually the disability itself is signified. I've heard it referred to in the past as trapped in self. But basically a individual with autism struggles to differentiate sometimes self, whether it be self-awareness and where they're supposed to be, or that things outside of them aren't self. That whole concept of self and is where their main struggle is. They like repetitive actions. They like patterns. They don't like to uh, have their day work the same every day. They're not a big fan of change. They don't like to get their rhythm messed up throughout the day or things to be different. And that's something that's really important when you're working, especially with a child. If you have a daily pattern that they work through, you have to make sure you at least kind of work into that area, um, because little changes that you wouldn't think would bother you can really affect them in a big way. As far as intellectual disabilities, like I said, the little girl I work with has Down syndrome, and it's basically defined as a cognitive impairment. Um, it can be from developmental, it can be from an accident. Um, 2 decades ago, they only qualified it by IQ score, and we've kind of gotten away from that and realized I think it's really important to say no matter what child you're talking about, disability or not, we're all different individuals. We have different personalities. We have different upbringings, different reasons that we carry with us and different belief systems. And it's really hard to just signify something that is, oh, that's autistic, or because as individuals, every child, you can meet 20 different autistic children and they can all be completely different in a way. They have some of these little subsets that fit the mold, and that's part of the disability. But in general, you can jump into a broader way, like intellectual disability. You can It covers such a wide spectrum that you meet one child with an intellectual disability, you've met one child with an intellectual disability, same way with autism. So I think it's important to realize that you can't just use one thing that you know and it works every time, because every child is different. Every child has a different personality and a different level of cognition than the next, and we're all different. And what makes us beautiful as people. Um, so here's my cover sheet, and if you have trouble reading anything that I hold up, I will be submitting it in a discussion post with this video so everybody can see. Um, I chose autism and intellectual disability. Here's my Venn diagram. I'll hold it there for a second so you can see it. Okay, so the differences with autism, children usually like repetitive things, like I said. They like activities that are repetitive, and if you step outside of something that they're used to, you can cause yourself a lot of issues. They can trigger a behavior or just make them want to shut down. Um, Also, another difference is they really like sensory stimuli. Um, Certain stimuli can cause terrible negative behaviors, and some can cause positive behaviors. Um, like my little guy that I work with, if you rub his arm, it calms him right down, even whenever he's in the middle of a moment. If you uh, bang on a wall or click and pop in the bathroom when he's going to the bathroom, it sends him through the roof. There's different triggers, and it's important to note that sometimes you're thinking, why is he throwing a fit? And it's hard to understand that those are little stimuli that just sets him off and he can't help it, or some that just make him calm, make him realize. Playing with a fidget spinner or poppets, he loves doing those things because it calms him down. It lets him focus on something. Um, as far as intellectual disabilities, they're significantly lower or sub-average intellectual function, which is different from autism because, like I said, they're all different. Every individual is a different individual, but the little guy I work with, he struggles socially, but he's very bright and handles things very well on the scholastic side. Um, Certain here a big another big difference is that profound intellectual disabilities may not even respond to environmental stimuli. And I know the little girl I work with, I struggle some days to get her to even get up and function. You can talk to you blue in the face, and if she doesn't want it, she doesn't pay attention to anything you're saying. Some of the similarities, um, in both cases, it affects your child's educational performance. It affects how they gain information and how they receive and work on that information. Um, Also, social behavior. It really, really adversely affects communication in both disabilities. Um, with autism, it's a it's a disease where you struggle to or to view yourself and something outside of yourself in one way or another. With intellectual disability, the cognition may not be there, or to if you think of their peers cracking jokes, and if they can't understand or have trouble comprehending what they're talking about. It makes them socially awkward. And that's the biggest thing that I work with both of the children I work with is getting them to be more social and be able to fit into that community, because at the end of the day that's what we're trying to do is help them to function in society and learn how to take care of themselves, learn how to better themselves in the best way possible. um, so some of the barriers that, well, let's start with some of the strengths. With autism, because of the liking of patterns and the way they perceive stimuli, my little guy, he does very good if you can fit something that you want to teach him into his pattern. It helps him be more receptive of it. It helps him get into that mode a little better. Um, because of that, if you can get him to focus, he has hyper focus. He's involved the whole way, and you can't get him to stop focusing on what you want him to focus on. As far as the intellectual disability, um, the little girl I work with is way more of a visual learner than she is an auditory learner. So, and even above her peers on things she notices and things she can understand through visuals. Uh, as far as barriers, um, kind of fall in the same area as far as if you're stepping outside of a pattern or a change in any way, it can really mess up the day and cause him to have bad problems. Um, the same way with her, she, like I said, she visually, she's a very good learner, but you notice when you're working with her, and this is common in a lot of intellectual disabilities, is the auditory memory and learning isn't the same. So you can think I told you this yesterday and you didn't, you, why are you not remembering? But that is a barrier that most intellectual disabilities struggle with. Visual seems to stand out more, and auditory is something that kind of holds them back a little bit. They don't remember auditory things the same way that they do visual things. Um, with that, I plan to and do use a lot of visual cues with the little girl that I work with. She does very well with visual age charts, Velcro stickers to learn hot and cold and what things are hot, what things are cold, because she's seeing that and she's putting it into action. Those things are something that I will always use when it works. And like I said, every child is different, so you have to adapt and you have to figure out what's the best way for that specific child to help them and what they need. Um, my little guy, he does really good if, like I already mentioned, if you can fit something into his his pattern or adapt something that I want him to learn into his pattern, and then he gets focused on it. And if it's something that he really wants to do because it's part of that daily routine, then he's almost unstoppable once he starts, and it's a really good attribute for him. Um, so I plan to use that when applicable. Um, the social side of things, it something that works for both of them for different reasons, but repetitive behaviors. I walk around anytime I'm in the hall or with their peers when we go to the gen ed classroom. They, I repeatedly social cues. Hi, how are you doing? Please and thank you. Manners, talking back and forth. And my little guy, he's got into giving high fives and saying hi, and it's actually getting him more social and in a really positive way. So the same way with the little girl that I work with, that repetitive action seems to pull that visual internal memory, and she remembers things she does, and works through that. Um, so as far as in the future, what I can use, I plan to use all of the experience that I've had through life and all of these supports that I learn between our readings and classes, and the life experience that I'm getting as a para, which is amazing. I would suggest anybody, if you have the ability, to put some time in there, because it helps you get an understanding, um, with a little bit of supervision, which is really good. Um, it's hard to say exactly what scaffoldings I will be using, because, like I said, every child is different, and you've got to adapt what you do to find a way to help them in the best way possible for them. When you're a teacher, you're no longer thinking of you and what you need to do. It's how can I help this child to the best of my ability, and it doesn't matter if you're in gen ed or special education. That doesn't change, and I think understanding the fact that a child with an intellectual disability has uh, a better visual memory than an auditory memory, that lets you understand that just barking orders over and over again isn't really going to help you any. If you can make something visual, and give them something that they can look at and work on, then uh, it helps that memory build, and it helps you aim it towards life skills or towards academics, whatever that child is in need of, and whatever scaffolding they need. Um, as far as autism goes, understanding the repetitive nature and the fact that they don't look at social the same way because of their view of self, and where their view of self is. Anything you can do to enhance that by making a pattern of saying hi when you meet somebody new, or understanding other people's feelings in a way. And some cases are severe enough that you can't manage that, but it's always worth a try. Um, so I really think that my life experience, and what I'm gaining in class is going to benefit me in a lot of ways, and that's how I intend to use what I'm learning. Um, and here, one last thing is our references. I put the book, and this website is Autism and Self. I really liked reading through it, and if you have any questions on uh, that self perception, and um, how they struggle to see, it gives a list of different sides of that, and how they can. It's a good website to help you understand that. So I hope this video finds everybody doing well, and I hope you have a great day. I'm sorry it was so long.